Welcome to the Exhibit A podcast.
Good morning. Welcome to Exhibit A. Today we are going to bring back Stephanie, our former law clerk. You used to be a law clerk at our office, but now you're an attorney, and we have Monet, who is also a former law clerk. And this is Monet's first time on the show. Both of them have been brought in because they're recent admittees to the California State Bar. Congratulations, ladies.
Thank you, Don.
Today we're going to talk about an issue that I recently spoke on TV about, and I think it's a worthy conversation, and that is whether or not we should be using corporal punishment as parents to discipline our children. But before we get into that, I want to have a little fun and talk to you ladies about your recent exam and passing and the celebrations and all of that. So let me just set it up a little bit. Monet's been working for our firm for almost, I think, 2 years. I lose track, but you were a law clerk. You came to me from USC. You worked 2 full summers. This past summer, you were a senior law clerk. You even worked during the school year on a part-time basis. And the only time you weren't working at our office is when you were studying for the bar. And you're an undergrad for UCLA, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And Stephanie came to us last year during the school year. You were invited to be a law clerk from our partner, Patrick. Patrick is in charge of our law clerk program, and he saw something in you. And I would like to tell the story that I had no idea who you were. I just saw you sitting at the desk, and I thought Patrick hired this law clerk. He must have confidence in her. And throughout the school year, I kept hearing people saying, boy, she's really, really good. We really like her. And, towards the end, you probably remember that I had you working for a couple of projects, and I saw things, and I thought, wow. And you left, and I thought, we got to bring her back. And so we came back for the summer, and both of you passed the bar on the first time. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So let's just talk about the bar exam for a little bit. People probably don't know that California is one of the toughest exams in the nation. The passage rate for first-time takers was what?
I think this year was 55%.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's usually 68%.
Yeah. So the passage rate is harder now or lower now than it was when I took the exam. I think that when I took the exam, it was about 65%.
Oh,
wow. And that's first-time takers, right? Now, if you combine all of the applicants, all the people that took the exam, the passage rate was even lower, right? What was it?
Like 40%?
Yeah, around there.
Okay. So, to me, I think it's an accomplishment when you take the bar exam, because we're talking about a lot of people that want to be lawyers and they're not let in. What do you think about the California standards? I mean, it seems like it's pretty rigid. Why do they do it in your mind? Stephanie, why do you think that they made it so hard to pass the bar?
I think there's just so many people that want to be a lawyer, and there has to be some sort of gatekeeper from allowing just anyone to enter the field. So I think California is a really lovely place. People flock here. They want to work here, especially entertainment law. So I think they just need to set up some sort of barriers to weed out maybe people who won't be the best attorneys.
Okay. What do you think, Monet?
I think it's a fair test. However, I don't know if you guys are aware, but the multiple choice, it hadn't been that low in 34 years. So I do think something needs to be changed, because there's no reason why, so many people should be failing. I also think the reason our passage rate is so low is because there's a lot of schools that are not accredited, and those students are able to take the test. So I think that also makes a difference. So I don't know if it's the test, if it's the standards, but I do think something needs to change, because it's pretty bad. This year was bad.
So you think that you should think it's too tough for people? See, I kind of feel good the fact that I passed, and then I'm sitting as an attorney, and I like the idea that there's a really tough standard, because I think people out there deserve competent attorneys. And as we know, there's folks out there that are practicing law that shouldn't be, and perhaps the exam really filters out incompetence in a way. And going back with what you ladies were saying is that there's a lot of applicants coming from a lot of places, and California doesn't have this strict requirement that law schools have to be ABA approved. So there's a lot of people that take the exam that are not even attending law school. They could study for the exam. So I personally like the filter, but it is kind of curious that it keeps dropping, it seems, and we know of, I know a lot of people in my career that didn't pass on the first time that made excellent attorneys, and some of them made really good judges as well. So what do you know? But anyways, let's talk about when you found out. You found out, I think it was the day after Thanksgiving. Is that correct? Or no, it was the
week before.
It was the week
before Thanksgiving.
The Friday.
Okay. And it was a Friday, about 6 p.m.
6 p.m. on a Friday. We were at work, and I think Dawn noticed that we were a little edgy that day. So I went home, and my parents were packing for a trip to Guatemala. So the house was a mess. There's suitcases everywhere, and I'm just trying to remain calm. It's the worst website ever. You log in, there's no congratulations, no exclamation points, nothing. It's just your name is on the list. So I was in shock. I couldn't really comprehend what was happening, but I heard my mom scream. She's like, "You passed!"
And then she took off.
Yeah. Well, we hugged, we cried, and then they left.
Well, you know what's interesting is that I was watching the two of you throughout the summer, and of course I was relating it back to my experience. The two of you were very, very calm, and you were able to continue concentrating on your work, which is remarkable, because a lot of us, after going up to that month prior to finding out, you're just kind of you're not doing anything. You're just staring at your desk. You're worrying. You're asking the same question over and over. I was impressed by the fact that you kept putting out really good work and everything. There were some moments, though, Mane, where I'd walk past your office and the two of you were in there commiserating and talking and stuff. That's natural. How did you find out?
So same way, I checked at home with my family, my sister, my boyfriend. I was a total mess. I think we were okay up until the week before. And Dawn, you saw every morning we would go in my office, we'd talk about the same thing,
just drowning in self-doubt,
the same essay questions, and then the day of was really difficult working, but it also got our mind off of things.
Yeah, true.
And I drove home. It was about 4:30. I got home, and it was hell waiting for 6 p.m. And then I was so scared to press that enter button.
Did you celebrate afterwards?
I did. We went out, and then I saw my school friends, and then I had dinner. I think we're still riding that high.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It's going to last for a while. Perhaps all your life, because it's a great career. And then you swore in recently. So what happened is you swore in separately, even though you've become really good friends and you work together so closely. But two different law schools. Stephanie, you're from Southwestern. You're from SC. So you swore in at different days, different places. Stephanie, where did you swear in at?
So I swore in on December 3rd at Southwestern Law School, and my parents were there. They got to sit right behind me, so they witnessed everything. It was amazing. It was a great time. And then I went to dinner with my girlfriends after.
So your family was there.
Yeah,
I think we have some photographs of that.
Yes, I do have photographs.
Okay. And Mane, when did you swear in?
This past exactly a week ago, actually, on the 11th. Same procedure. We're at school. There were two judges, one for California, one for federal. Swore us into both. He signed our little oath card, and then we had a little reception after at the school. My family was sitting next to me, recording me. So, yeah, it was an amazing experience.
Good. Well, I'm sure you feel good signing your name, attorney at law now, when you sign your letters.
So fun.
Cool. Well, let's talk about the law. Now that you're licensed attorneys and you're capable of giving legal advice, although you probably were capable before, but now legally you could do so. I want to talk to you today about a topic that arose in the media recently, and it deals with corporal punishment. Now obviously we're not therapists, and we're not people that go around preaching to people how they should parent. But as attorneys, we deal with a lot of serious issues in family law, especially issues dealing with children. You probably don't know. I think before we started this program, you weren't aware of the fact that there was an assemblyman recently arrested for spanking his daughter, and it became a national story. DCFS got involved.
Wow.
The children were taken from the family for a couple of days. Eventually, they were returned to the family, and the assemblyman is having to answer why he used corporal punishment on the children. And, he's got a lot of negative attention he didn't want. He's a physician. He's somebody that calls himself a healer by nature. And the way that he describes the evening in question is that he, was really kind of run down a little bit. It was a long day. His daughter was acting out. She was 7 years old, and he just resorted to spanking her. And I guess the next day she went to school, told the teachers, they were mandated reporters. Next thing he knew it, the police were knocking at the door, and the Department of Children and Family Services was involved. So, it's an interesting topic because, as you probably know, that corporal punishment is still legal in all 50 states. I mean, it's not against the law. Parents still have the right to do that. So you're part of a younger generation, and what the studies also show is that people feel differently about corporal punishment than they did for my generation. In my generation, everybody got spanked.
Yeah.
I always tell the story that when I was a kid, walking down the street, with the baby boom era, windows were wide open, a nice summer day, and all you heard was moms spanking their boys, man. It was like, one thing after another. I mean, it was very, very common. Even teachers used corporal punishment. And in the United States, there's still a significant amount of states that allow teachers and school officials to use corporal punishment. So let's bring it to today now. Mane, what are your thoughts about the use of corporal punishment?
I think given the recent story you just told us and being in family law so far, I think you should never do it, just because of the way it looks to the court, to judges, when when they're deciding how to do the custody arrangement. Personally, I think it depends on, it's like case by case. I don't necessarily think it's wrong. I don't have kids, so I don't really know how I'll feel when I do have my own kids, and I know it's really difficult, dealing with little kids, and you do get angry. But I think, purely as an attorney, that you should never do it.
Yeah, and I think that you're alluding to something that I feel strongly about is whether you like corporal punishment or not, whether you think it's effective or not. The fact of the matter is that you're being judged by people you don't even know who exist yet,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
You got mandated reporters, and they may have strong feelings about corporal punishment. You're dealing with your child, or a parent is dealing with a child that's going to go to court and possibly testify against them.
Yeah.
They don't know what the consequences are of reporting out of anger, and they certainly don't know what's reasonable. So you got that. And then also, if there's criminal charges that are made, then the person is answering to 12 people in the community that may have completely different views. So as an attorney, I think I agree with you that our clients probably should think differently, especially when you've got an opposing party, who's just looking for opportunities to bury you in a child custody matter, right?
Exactly.
And making some false allegations and stuff. So, Stephanie, let me ask you this. Do you agree with the legal analysis here?
Yeah.
It's probably wise not to do it, especially during a divorce or a custody.
There's just so many consequences that could actually happen. I grew up in a time when everyone was being spanked. But, yeah, if you're in a family custody battle, it's just not a good idea at all.
So that's interesting. I didn't ask the question, but you're saying that even your generation that you knew that people were still being spanked and everything. I mean, I tell the story that with my children, I think I spanked them one time, and they were in diapers, and I went pow pow like that, and I didn't apply any pressure. I just tapped their diaper, and it just affected them so much that I thought, oh my gosh, they're feeling like dad wants to hurt them physically. And looking at them, I thought, I will never do that again. Never. And so what I did is I resorted to other things like putting them in timeout and taking things away from them. But the thought of using violence or force against a child that you love so dearly, that really struck me, and stuff. But I didn't know that other parents were still spanking as much as you're reporting. How do you feel about corporal punishment as it deals with disciplining children?
I don't think it's effective. I don't think it's a deterrent. I think it causes more emotional, psychological harm in addition to the physical pain. I'm just not a proponent of it at all.
Yeah, I feel the same way about you. I think that studies have supported the fact that there's really no use, beneficial use in corporal punishment, and it affects people's development, right? Children are scarred sometimes for life, and especially if it's harsh, corporal punishment. Again, growing up in a different generation, I mean, I remember getting the paddle from my principal and my school teachers hitting your hands with a ruler and all that stuff. And I can't say that it made me a better person.
Yeah.
But when I relate that experience with my own children and how I looked at their reaction when I just went pow pow, it just meant something to me. Other people differ. I recently posted something online because I was on TV on this issue recently, and I got some comments, and it wasn't directed at me, but it was about the feeling, different feelings. Some parents still think that that's an appropriate way of disciplining.
Yeah.
My other feeling, Mane, and you tell me if you agree with this, is that you're teaching your child some bad things, I think, because most of the time when people use corporal punishment, they're frustrated and they're angry and they're doing things where they're kind of out of control. I know that when my dad whipped me, he was angry, and he was usually yelling. And I think that happens a lot of times with the use of corporal punishment. So you're teaching your child that when you're frustrated, rather than using patience and being in control of yourself, it's okay to lash out physically and stuff. How do you feel about that?
So I completely agree with you. And then your child can act the same way in school, and that could cause problems in his or her life. So I do think that it definitely affects them on that level. And if you're their mentors and their teachers, and if they see you doing things like that, then they'll think it's okay to react in that way, as opposed to talking, using your words. So if they have problems with their classmates or their siblings, if there's a younger sibling, the older sibling might treat the younger one. If they see their parents spanking them, they'll do that to their younger sibling or their classmates. And yeah, I agree that it does affect them in that way.
Yeah,
it's not right.
It really doesn't take much either to get a parent in trouble these days. We've had a lot of really good people come into our office and say, boy, I went to work and somebody called me, and it was from the Department of Children and Family Services, and there was a report, and things got heated, and it wasn't even a spanking. All I did was, just, maybe throw something, at my child. Didn't hurt the child, but I probably shouldn't have done that. So, I mean, it's a different era that we're living in now. And, I think we all agree, all three of us agree, that the use of corporal punishment today is probably not advisable, especially if you're in a family law matter. They talk about custody of kids, and the presumptions are very strong with regard to domestic violence. And if you commit domestic violence against a parent, one of the opposing party or the children, you're going to lose your opportunity to have joint physical custody and joint legal custody, right? And I always think about also what the court is supposed to look at when it determines custody. And it's number one is the health, welfare, and safety of the child, right? So if you've got a conviction of domestic violence against your kid, where's that going to send you, right? So anyways, very interesting topic. Yes. I think that's a very good one. I'd like to lighten it up a little bit. I think that both of you have seen a story that was published not too long ago, and that involves a lady who celebrated her divorce. And I'm going to tell you that, I'm a media hound. I'm looking for stories all the time, interesting stories. And what I've come across is a bunch of articles of people that determine that it's cool to celebrate their divorce. And I think that's good, because getting to the finish line of a divorce is not easy, right?
Right.
I mean, you both have seen the struggles that people go through and stuff. I've seen some ladies publish, getting together with their bridesmaids, and she's wearing her wedding dress, and they go to Vegas and they're celebrating the divorce. But the recent one was this Texas woman that decided that she was going to blow up her wedding dress and capture that on video. And I think we have it on video, and maybe we could show that to our viewers. But Stephanie, what are your thoughts about that?
I think that's great. I think it's fun. Like you said, it's a long journey to get to the finish line, especially in high conflict cases. I mean, it's over. Let's celebrate, In
Mane, I know that you said something about it being in Texas, and you and I have talked about this before, that you would never see that in California, I guess, right?
Yeah, that's the first. I'll say that's the first reaction I had. Well, of course, it's not that surprising. I feel like people are a little more lax over there, and over here, I think if that happened, people would react differently. I mean, I think it's hilarious, but I don't know if I would advise, if I were her attorney, I don't know if I would advise her to do that. But I mean, whatever makes her get closure and feel like, she's done.
As long as the husband's not standing behind the wedding
Yeah.
dress, right?
Definitely.
As long as no one's injured.
Yeah. You know, we talk about getting to the finish line of a divorce case. I always say that I really hope to see our clients at a Starbucks someday where I just, unexpectedly bump into them and they're regular, normal people again. And that does happen on occasion. And it's funny when you look at the affect of people that are going through a divorce versus when they're done.
Mm-hmm.
It is so cool when you've gotten them to that end and you see them and they're comfortable, they're back in their lives, and the last thing they're thinking about is that divorce that was on their mind for so long. I don't know about blowing up wedding dresses and things like that, but I do think it's cause for celebration, for sure. Well, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure, and we hope to have you again on the show.
Yes.
I know that we've got two very bright attorneys. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching us again.
Exhibit A is produced by David Lindley at the law offices of Donald P. Schweitzer in Pasadena, California. For more information, visit us online at PasadenaLawOffice.com and all social media platforms.